Hello everybody and welcome to This Nintendo Life, episode 301. My name is NVZ and it's actually been a weirdly long time since we recorded a main episode because we recorded 300 quite a ways in advance, or at least a little bit in advance. Yeah.
It took a lot of recovery time, that's why we need the gap.
Definitely.
It was an effort.
Yeah, needed a break, needed to cool down, needed to a rest. But yeah, that went pretty well, I think. And overall, sounded like the sound quality held up. There was, I think the only thing that got through the gate was the coughs. So apologies for the coughs there. Bally and I coughing up a storm. But I think that I did like some moving of the kind of like voices back and forth that we usually do to just like make it sound seamless. And in the edit, I could hear like some crosstalk. But then when it was rendered out, for whatever reason, the magic happened and it was fine. So yeah, it seemed like that went well, and get a good proof of concept for whenever we want to do that again of recording in person. Because I mean, to me, it sounded almost just like exactly the same as being through Discord, which is pretty seamless. So that was good. But Bally, how are you doing? How's it been going over there?
I'm good. I've not played quite as much DK as I planned. We've had guests, been busy. Bally Chew is kind of he's waking up quite a bit in the night, and then sometimes not going back to bed. And like we're in this tricky position where we're like managing his naps throughout the day, because if he naps too much and too late, then it means well he's not going to sleep at night, and then it's a balancing act, like almost all aspects of parenting seem to be, and sometimes you don't get the balance quite right, and it punishes you on the sleep front. it's
on the bright side, though, Bally Jr. knows who Donkey Kong is.
He knows who Donkey Kong is.
Saying banana a lot.
He is saying, "Oh, bananas." Every waking moment. He is lifting up furniture and throwing it like he thinks he's
pretending
a gorilla.
to be DK.
He
nice,
thinks he is
okay.
DK. And he's just pumped about the few sessions that he's had with Donkey Kong Bananza, and it's adorable. It's really great.
That's great.
He's an easy sell. He's an easy target for Nintendo, and they got him.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, you're starting him early, Bally, but it's good that the indoctrination has begun, and we're well on our way.
Could you imagine playing a game like Donkey Kong Bananza when you were 3?
Oh God, I don't think I knew what a video game was when I was 3. We didn't live in that world, unfortunately. But yeah, that would have been. I don't know. Thing is, how much do you remember from when you were 3? Like, I try and think back. What memories do I have as a 3-year-old?
I don't know. I think my parents say the same 30 stories about me, and I think those become history, the legend, as it were.
Those ingrain as memories,
and everything else that's not in the most famous pictures, all their 30 stories that they keep saying on a loop, end up.
Yeah.
I don't know much more than those stories, right? Like, it's hard to remember.
Yeah, it's also like sometimes with like home video stuff as well. It's like, is that a memory I have, or am I just projecting a thing because I've watched myself on a video?
It's impossible to tell
times.
In your mind as well what you project and what is genuine in your head.
Memory is fallible in that way. You know, that's that's part of the beauty of it. But we are here to talk about our memories with Donkey Kong Bananza that we've just been playing. Very fresh ones, I should say. But Bally, do you want to let people know what today's show is?
Yeah, we're just talking about Donkey Kong for the whole episode. It's one big segment. We've got a few listener emails that we're going to talk about with Donkey Kong Bananza, and we've got our own thoughts to share on a few areas.
Yes. So what do you say, Bally? We get into it. So this is the actual real launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. I did tweet out my copy of Donkey Kong Bananza, and I was like, oh wow, so excited for the launch of Switch 2 today, basically, because
it does feel good to have a meaty single player thing to keep checking back into with Switch 2. And honestly, I kind of forget I'm even playing Switch 2. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just think I'm playing Switch, and I don't know. Maybe it's a bit. It's almost too seamless to be a Nintendo console, it feels like.
In some ways, I guess, like, visual fidelity-wise, when you're looking at your television and it's in, like, 4K and you can see DK's fur and the way it's rendered and all that sort of stuff, for me, I definitely have felt the difference just in the visual fidelity level of it. But you're right in that it's not like a massive jump. I do think that as soon as Nintendo went into HD with the Wii U, we kind of hit a threshold of how good Nintendo games can look. Like, honestly, Wii U level of graphics is pretty much the height of what I think Nintendo can achieve in a lot of ways, and we've only been kind of slightly iterating on that since. And so obviously there's like lots of other things as this game does that are using the tech in interesting ways, but from a pure visual standpoint, I think it's stuff just like, render distance and like, just quality of textures and just the sheen and the shine of everything more so than any other element. But yeah, I definitely have felt that. But I think I have felt in handheld mode as well, in some ways, it feeling a little restricted, because this game feels like it's a big world to explore, and something about the camera, the way it's positioned in handheld, I feel like I lose that sense of being able to get that wonder of exploration, and I almost feel like I need to play this on the big screen to get that sense. I don't know, have you played any handheld yet, or have you just been on TV?
I'd say I've been 60% TV, because it's a very like pick up and play sort of game, and I've been enjoying just looking after kids or doing whatever, like lunch break and before, after work, just like I'll just pick up, play a quick 20 minutes here, quick 20 minutes there, and it's very easy to just do that. So I've been playing a decent chunk of handheld.
Okay. Yeah. Have you felt that same way with it? I don't know. Something for me is just like I feel constricted in a way. Like I'm so the DK is so large on the screen that it feels like it's harder to kind of see like where I want to explore and that type of thing.
Not really. I do think on the TV it looks more impressive, but I don't think it's affecting my enjoyment in any way.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So yeah, I guess we can just kind of start with what is this game from a like context standpoint, because I think that's something that is interesting to discuss and leads into speculation potentially about Nintendo's kind of like procedures within its studios and what they're doing. And I do think that generally speaking, Nintendo want to try and obfuscate as much as possible. In recent times, this has been a thing where they have not been telling anyone who is making their video games, right? They're like, oh, no, it's just Nintendo, the Nintendo Magic House. You go there and they wave their magic wand and out comes a video game. And they're always like, okay, hey, just wait until the credits roll. And then when the credits roll, then you'll see who developed the game, right? Which leads to some weird situations where we don't know who's made a game until it's out in the wild and people finish it and they're like, oh, actually it was Goodfield who made this, or whoever, right? There's different teams under Nintendo's umbrella. But Nintendo proper, EPD, right, which is kind of the grouping of their internal studios, both in Kyoto and in Tokyo, there is really only a couple of teams that kind of like get the pedigree there. One is obviously the Zelda team, led by Aonuma, and everyone knows who it is who makes the Zelda games because it's the one team that always makes the Zelda games. And then I think, other ones that stand out, Nintendo tend to give Monolith Soft props for whatever reason, mainly because like they make quite a different type of game than a lot of the rest of Nintendo does, and Monolith Soft themselves have their own fandom prior to Nintendo. So I do think that's kind of a thing, and it's also quite obvious, if it's a Xenoblade game, it's going to be a Monolith Soft thing. So they do put their logo front and center oftentimes. And in the case of Metro Prime 4, they were kind of forced to do it because of the way that situation went, where it was cancelled, and then they rebooted it, and they were like, okay, we cancelled it, but hey, Retro Studios, who made the original, they're going to do it now. So I guess that's almost the only reason we know why it's Retro, is because that happened. So they're in this weird place where they don't want to say it, and that led to a lead up with this game where a lot of people were looking at it and they were saying, hey, that looks mighty similar to a 3D Mario game. That looks like that team out in Tokyo, formerly known as EAD Tokyo, now probably EPD Tokyo, probably the people who are making this thing. But nobody knew, and we only found out that was in fact the case maybe a week beforehand. Was it a week or was it a couple of weeks beforehand, where there was that preview stuff and they were doing interviews?
A very weird amount of time beforehand.
Yes, like very soon beforehand, which was, I'm not sure why that was. Probably because they were doing interviews, right? Because, if Nintendo want press opportunity and they want the developers who are making the games to talk to the press, they inevitably have to, the press will find out what these people's names are, and then they will cross-reference them with the credits of previous Nintendo games and be like, oh, it's the Mario team who made Odyssey, so they might as well actually let the cat out of the bag if they're going to let the developers who made the game talk to press, right? They almost were forced to in that sense if they wanted to do something like that. So that was the case. They had those interviews, and so yeah, we came to the understanding, which I think you and I very obviously from the beginning were like, well, clearly this is that team. Like it's pretty.
Yeah, I didn't fully understand the camp of a few podcasters I listened to, the minority, who are like, I'm not that convinced it's the Odyssey team or linked to that game in many ways, but yeah, sure enough, it is. It was.
It is.
It feels it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, this is the new game from that team. Now, what is that team is another question that we can maybe discuss a little bit of, like, okay, are there multiple teams within each EPD group, right? Because, you know, under the banner of EPD, 3, I don't actually know, but Animal Crossing and Splatoon exist under one EPD group, right? However, those are two separate development teams. So it's a whole thing where, like, okay, yes, there is this group that handles these franchises, but within those groups, I imagine there are multiple teams. And so the question has become, is the Tokyo team split in two? Is there multiple games the Tokyo team is making? Does that mean anything for... Because I think as soon as this was announced, like, yes, it's that team, a lot of people started panicking, being like, oh, we're not going to get a 3D Mario. But that might not necessarily be the case, right? Because especially because Mario Odyssey came out in 2017, and it's been 8 years since then. And so in 8 years has this team only been working on this one game. Given the size of it, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. But that said,
they did confirm it started as a Switch 1 game, which is kind of mind-blowing when you see how destructive the environment is in these kinds of things.
Totally. I think inevitably it would have been like a 30 frames per second Switch 1 game, because I don't know how they would have been able to...
Yeah, a Tears of the Kingdom situation.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think the question is still in people's minds, like, is there going to be another 3D Mario? And, like, I think given the history of recent Nintendo, where they just literally sit on video games until they're like, now is a good time to release it, I wouldn't be surprised if this game was done a couple of years ago and has just been going through, like, small polish iteration before the Switch 2 launch, and they actually have been working on another project as well that maybe will come sometime next year or next couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But this is a change of pace for this team, right? If we go back, they have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 6? So, okay, so Galaxy 1, Galaxy 2, 3D Land, 3D World, Odyssey. And if you want to count Bowser's Fury, you can. So 5.5, let's say, Mario games back to back. The thing we should remember is the first game that this team worked on was, in fact, a Donkey Kong game, right? Because Donkey Kong Jungle Beat was the genesis of this Tokyo team and was a 2D platformer on the GameCube that used the bongo controls specifically. So, in many ways, even though this team is so known for its Mario output, their genesis was in Donkey Kong. So this is a return home in some ways, and... it's interesting because they are, in a lot of ways here, reinventing what Donkey Kong has been, you know? One of the interesting things that I think that came out of the interviews was the new design for Donkey Kong that's in the movie, that's now Mario Kart. The genesis for it was actually this game, because this game has actually been in development for quite a long time. And so the design of DK, where that came from, like... They were very much talking about it in the sense of going back to the original Miyamoto kind of like
it does
sketches.
look like the artwork from the pre-Rare DK, and then Rare did their own thing, right? And then
of course
Rare's design became the established form of Donkey Kong, which is bizarre to think about, because the idea of like a British studio having such control over the design of one of Nintendo's main characters is a big deal.
Exactly. And I think it's an interesting, like, when you look at Rare's design and you look at it compared to the rest of the Nintendo lineup, it is a little different, you know, in some ways of, like, there is something more angular to it, something more serious in a way. And I think that design was born out of the graphical necessity of the way they were doing things with how Donkey Kong Country looked on the Super Nintendo. And then that just kind of carried on from there. And you know, he just retained that look through the years. And so it's very interesting to come to this point and almost in a kind of like Zelda way, you know, when they were looking from a design perspective, you know, Breath of the Wild, they were like, let's go back to Zelda 1. From like a character design standpoint, they're coming to this game and they're saying, okay, let's go back to the original sketches. Let's see if we can replicate that, right? You know, you could say that like the Zelda 1 box art is like the thing that in some ways inspired like the open world of Breath of the Wild, right? That looking over that view. And now we have this Donkey Kong who is representative of that kind of original cartoon character mascot feel from back in the original kind of classic arcade days. So yeah, it's been a long road to have a DK game, and I think this is something that also was rumored for many years as well. There was always that kind of like, oh, somebody's working on a Donkey Kong game, but it's not going to be retro, and maybe it's a 3D Donkey Kong. And obviously the last 3D Donkey Kong, the only other 3D Donkey Kong that exists, is Donkey Kong 64, another game made by Rare, right? And so, you know, Donkey Kong really in this form from Nintendo, I believe Jungle Beat is the last time that an internal Nintendo studio worked on a Donkey Kong game. So it's the same team as well, which is interesting because, yeah, Retro and Rare. So basically, DK has been the domain of non-internal Nintendo for most of its lifespan, and majority of DK games made.
Like the mainline series, because there's like Mario versus Donkey Kong, and there's like the climbing ones, and there's a couple of others,
which King of Swing.
Yeah,
there's definitely spin-offs in there for
the
sure.
Racing
but like
one on the bongos. What was that one?
Oh, right. Fucking like, jet bongo thing.
Yeah, there's quite a few
yeah.
weird spin-offs, but...
Yeah, definitely during that era as well of like the Wii and the GameCube, and GBA and stuff like that, and that, and
of course Donkey Konga. How could you forget?
Of course, Donkey Kong. Everyone loves it. And then there was a DS King of Swing apparently that I didn't realize that also came out. So, yes. Anyway, long preamble. To get to this moment, Donkey Kong Bonanza, the brand new video game from EPD Tokyo, and it's not Mario, right? It's a different thing. It is in many ways retains elements of Mario Odyssey, but is mechanically doing something else and has different priorities. Bali, going into this, I guess, what were your expectations and how have you found it thus far?
They were high. They're always high when we always like checking the OpenCritic, Metacritics, these kind of things. Is saying like 91, made by the Odyssey team, going in. I thought this game is going to be amazing, and I also made a point of I hadn't seen anything on Bananza since the Treehouse back and then around its reveal. So I literally hadn't even worked out how similar the bananas were to the moons from Odyssey. Like I just thought the bananas were some sort of other collectible. I avoided the direct they did recently. I really knew very little about the structure of the game, and I'm glad I did that. Like I'm being pleasantly surprised by things. And yeah, my initial thoughts, and I'll say my thoughts now, I'm 12 hours in, are the same as the start of the game, are incredibly positive. I think that the loop is so satisfying, and I think that what they absolutely nail is this visceral game feel that is a combination of the vibration of the controller, the sound design of the hitting and the smacking and the walloping and the throwing, and then the animation on top of all that just brings the whole feeling of stomping and smashing around as Donkey Kong into this very fun thing to do that never gets old, at least 12 hours in. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how I will feel after 12 hours, but it makes the game so much fun to just pick up and play and keep going. And that's my overwhelming feeling so far, is that, you know, I don't see the placement of like moons and bananas that differently. I'm just satisfied that like these bananas are fun to hit. And like even think back to like a game like Tropical Freeze, there's that end of level moment where you can sometimes smash the barrel and then you like punch as fast as you can, like you're button mashing and there's vibration. Like just that satisfaction of punching with DK in this game is done so impeccably well that all the rest feels a little bit like side dressing to me, and that core game loop I'm still very invested in and having a great time. Yeah.
I think, you know, what you're kind of referring to is what we have coined Nintendo Juice. What's the juiciest Nintendo game of the year? I think in previous years that crown would go to games like Luigi's Mansion 3 or to Splatoon 3 recently.
3,
but Donkey Kong Bonanza feels like it's that like extra level of polish that only a team who is allowed 8 years to work on a video game can provide. And that is certainly the case here. So I have finished the game. According to my Switch, I've played over 25 hours. I don't know if that's closer to 25 or to 30, because in Nintendo's infinite wisdom with the Switch 2, they still didn't change that feature of the system to let you know how much you've played of a game. Thanks Nintendo. The game doesn't itself tell you an hour count, so I'm shooting in the dark here. But I think it's closer to 25. This game is so much bigger and longer than I expected. Like I was very much of the opinion going into this. I was like, oh, it's like from that same team. They'll probably be quite similar in terms of structure and length. I was like, Mario Odyssey was a 10-hour game. I blast through that. That was nice.
You do this thing though, MBZ. Certain like weekends, a new game will come out. You've got like this slight MBZ arrogance where you're like, I can beat a whole game in a weekend, and it doesn't matter what game it is. I can beat the whole game. And I think you very much had that expectation with this game, very logically, understandably logically, because as you say, Odyssey, beat that game in about 12 hours, maybe 15. Feels good. It's short. You can beat it in a weekend if you go for it. And I think you found that, this game, you can't really beat it in a weekend unless you don't sleep. And that's maybe not an optimal way to play.
I think you can. I also think, and we can get into this, I've gone back and forth on my thoughts on this game multiple times, but there was I think Saturday evening, or like Saturday afternoon to evening, I played 5 hours of this game in a row. I would not recommend anybody do that. And I think part of it is that there is so much fucking dopamine in this game that I think it overloaded my brain. There is and I think my brain got exhausted with the sheer amount of just like shit reacting with DK, because the core mechanic here is punching shit, right? You are punching through every environment possible.
You're punching up, you're punching across, you're punching down. That takes up 3/4 of the face buttons.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing.
Totally, it's such a core thing, and I think there, in some ways, there's a monotony to it, but in others, like, I can't get enough of it, right? Like, I was simultaneously bored, but also couldn't put the game down. Like, it was a really weird feeling, and I still don't really know how to feel about it, but what I can tell you is I picked it up today and kept playing even after finishing, because I do want to go back and get all the bananas. So, like, it is incredibly compelling and hard to put down.
And fossils, or just bananas?
Oh, and fossils. I'm fucking doing all of it. Like, I feel the pull to do this guy because it's really enjoyable. Like, I think they've really nailed something here. But at the same time, I definitely think that what DK suffers from is a lack of variety in the like unique things that pop up from world to world and how far those stretch. You messaged me about a mechanic that you came across that you were like, oh, this is so cool. And I think the comparison to Odyssey would be, in Odyssey, you would go to a world and there would be 6 or 7 things you could capture and control. So the variety would be much broader for a smaller space, versus DK, where that world you're in is like 3 sub-layers deep. So it's much longer, much bigger.
Minimum you're 6 hours in, like that, to get there.
Totally. But because it's the spaces are so much denser and bigger, and there's more in them, but then you're also only really providing one new core mechanic per section. And in a lot of ways, I will say that the worlds, I was disappointed in the lack of creativity of what they are. It's like, here's a forest, here's a snow, here's a fire, here's a... there is some that do that, and I would say this game is backloaded in terms of the interesting stuff. Like, the last 3 or 4 worlds, I will say, are definitely the most interesting, and some of the most fun surprises come there. But I think they did a bad job of distribution, whereas there's definitely some later that I would have pulled earlier. Like, the second to last area, the last major area where you have multiple sub-layers, is so cool, but by the time I got there, I was kind of exhausted, and I kind of wanted to get to the end, and so I didn't enjoy it as much as I think I really would have done, say, as like the 5th sublayer, you know? So I think they did a poor job of arranging those areas to give the pacing of like, okay, here's a regular snow and here's a regular forest, but in between, here's a thing that you've not even thought of. And I think Odyssey was also better about that, where it was like, okay, it's this kind of like lush environment, but there's fucking dinosaurs everywhere, right? Like that thing. Or the fucking world you go to and it's like knives and forks and all that kind of weird stuff happening. Like there's a zaniness, I think, and a creativity. And I honestly, like, I think this game in many ways, Bally, has made me appreciate Odyssey more than I have in the past. Maybe I've dunked on Odyssey a little too much, because I do at the end of the day, I do think Odyssey is a superior game to this. As much as I really enjoy this and love it, I do think there's a tightness to that 10 hours, and there's also just like a real, just inevitable sense of creativity and just like things thrown at you in that game that is very hard to replicate. And I think because this game goes for a bigger scope and is longer, and I would argue a bit more bloated, it is fun the whole way through, but I'm not getting that level of kind of creativity or like variety as frequently as I'm going through Donkey Kong Bonanza as I was with Super Mario Odyssey. I'll be interested to see how you feel as you go through, because you are being quite diligent about collecting most of the things as you go through. And I was doing a pretty similar thing. By the end of the game, I had 80% of collectibles, and that's, I think, bananas and fossils, I think. So I did a pretty, thorough job, but I was getting to a point of exhaustion with it. And the weird thing now is, I was telling you this before we started recording, was I'm actually enjoying the game more now, kind of freed from the idea of finishing it. And maybe that was something that was kind of tied over my head of like, I just wanted to get to the end to see what was happening and get the kind of surprises and stuff. And now that that's done, now I feel like, oh, now I can just like put a podcast on and not have to like lock into it. Because I do think that like with a game like this, I do want to have headphones in and listen to the music and all that sort of stuff and focus on it. But I actually think this game is so much better as a second screen experience than it is as a kind of like focus your attention on type of game. So I'm actually enjoying it more now, kind of freed from the main story and just able to just go and, you know, basically I went, I had one of the Bananza power-ups that's very good for collecting gold, and I went to an area where I know there's a lot of gold, and for like 20 minutes I just collected gold and I got like 10,000 gold, so I could then go and spend that on maps to find the lost fossils and bananas in certain areas. So yeah, there's a real satisfaction to that. We can get into all those specific Bananza things as well, because that's something that actually you didn't know about going into this because you hadn't watched the presentation, Bally.
I still don't have any more than the base Bananza. I'm about to get it, but I still don't know what they are. I don't know how they'll impact me. I'm intrigued.
Sure.
I think it's weird that I agree with you on pacing just based on the fact I've played 10 to 12 hours and I've not got the second Bananza. I've experienced like 4 main worlds. And you're right, by this point, if you're mainlining a game like Mario Odyssey, you've beaten the whole thing. And when you think about the pacing of those kingdoms versus these larger areas, it's a completely different experience. But at the same time, the placement of bananas and moons arguably, in my opinion, feels very similar. Like, yes, you're digging more in this game to get a lot of bananas, and there's not obviously digging in Odyssey. And sure, Odyssey, I think you're platforming a bit more, and there's less platforming in this game, arguably. But other than those two variables, the pacing with which you're collecting the bananas and the moons feels very similar, even though the levels themselves are designed very differently and very, like, as you say, DK is very elongated, and it's wild that I've played 10 to 12 hours and, you know, I've not seen much of the game really, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. I think so far, because this game is definitely leaning on the mechanic of smashing and bashing and digging and crashing and punching, and the equivalent of that in Odyssey is the platforming, the hat jump, these kinds of things. And I guess traditionally we prefer the platforming, the jumping, the hat jump, these kinds of tricks, but
it's a question I wanted to raise with this discussion is, do you think this is a platformer? Because at its core, like, I think, you know, we talk about genres a lot and how sometimes I'm like, that, you know, sometimes I'm like, genres don't matter, then other times I'm like, that's not a fucking JRPG. Don't say that. But like, I think for me, genre always comes down to like, what is your core mechanic? And the fact that 3 face buttons, like we said, are dedicated to punching and only 1 is dedicated to jumping, does that say anything? I don't know, because the other thing is that there are actually quite complex platforming movements in this game, and there's stuff like, so you can pick up chunks, right? These chunks, and one of the first abilities you unlock, one of the skills, is chunk jumping, which is to double jump when you're holding one of these things. And you can also surf on them, right? You can surf on the environment using them, and they'll kind of wear away as you go on them. And so what you can do is you can chain together a sequence of events, which is pick up a chunk, go surfing, build up speed, jump, untake it from your feet, put it in your hands, do the double jump, and then do a roll punch through the air. And there are gaps that you can clear that you wouldn't think you'd be able to with traditional movement, but because of the speed and momentum of like the turf surfing, you can get that going into a big jump and then use it. Like it's actually very similar to the kind of calculation and finger juggling you had to do in Mario Odyssey to do the hat throw, to jump, to dive, to whatever. Like there is a chain of things you can do that actually results in some. If they have, I don't know if they're all kind of like post-game, because I've seen some of the post-game stuff so far, but I don't know if it goes even further, with like difficult challenges of the platforming that requires you to use that stuff. And I don't know if it will, but the mechanics are there. The game is actually quite expressive from a platforming standpoint, even though the core mechanics seem to just be punch.
Yeah, and I think the way that you... if you're in a new area, do you dig down first? Do you move forward a bit first? Do you punch into the side? Do you look for areas above you first? Like, because there's just so much 3-dimensionality to the levels, I think the way that you decide to do a thing, because in that tutorial area, I'm thinking like, okay, how do I stop myself just looking for gold? Am I literally going to take 120 hours to beat this game because I'm just going to like hollow out every level?
Because it's just such a satisfying loop of like every time you see gold, you got to clap to get it, and then that causes more gold to surface. And then, like, this is what I'm saying about playing it for 5 hours in a row. Like, I think my brain fried itself because of just that thing you're talking about of like, I can't stop, you know? Like, it's just, it's so overwhelming in a way.
And I'm really enjoying when, I've clapped and I've spotted a banana or a treasure chest or a fossil, and I dig through to it. Oh, the banana's behind some sort of cage or something. I've got to work out how to get in this cage. Like, that kind of design I'm really enjoying, and does feel quite different to Mario Odyssey. And yeah, it's a really unique take. I think it's bold, and I'm absolutely loving it so far. But I agree with you. Like, I kind of, my brain does go to this place of clap, banana, get the banana, clap again, fossil, right, clap, doing this, dig. Is this fun? Am I just fueling like this node in my brain to keep going?
It's just appropriately extremely monkey brained, right? This game, you know, like there is...
Yes, exactly. Is this game secretly just turning us into Donkey Kong? That's the whole point of the game.
Totally, it's the machine that's gonna inevitably bring us back to our primal age and just become monkeys. But
I think the game is really immaculately designed on top of that, where there's warp points and shops, and there's maps you can buy to find the bananas, and there's these cute little rest points you can build and pay money, and then you'll have like a little bit of dialogue with Pauline, and like there's these really nice touches and attention to detail that I think Odyssey also did have, that makes you really, it's just that extra seal of quality on top that just feels like, oh yeah, of course this is the Odyssey team. You are not just smashing and crashing, and there is story, there are points of interest, there are these things, and so far I'm finding the pacing of these points of interest okay. I agree they're not as dense as Odyssey, but I'm finding it interesting. I'm in this weird forest-like hotel at the moment, and it's got a couple of bananas that are really unusually placed, and I'm trying to work out how to find them, and I'm going to the basement. I'm loving the challenge areas. Like, I think that the areas where you're defeating a bunch of enemies to win a banana are a little simple for the most part. I'm sure they get more complex.
Yeah, they feel... And, you know, I think we can talk about the Zelda influence on this game as well, of like the creative puzzle solving in some senses, but then also the shrine-like nature of some of these challenge rooms, where sometimes you'll get like a platforming focused one or a puzzle focused one that really stretches your ability to, you know, like kind of figure out what the game...
They're a real highlight, and maybe I would want a few more of them, because the ones where you're collecting 3 bananas are just a perfect respite from the smashing, crashing, bashing of the open world. And you're really having to stop and think, okay, how do I get up there? Okay, how do I get through here? Or
there's always the third banana, which is the one that's hidden in some way that you have to figure out.
They're really satisfying to find. And arguably Odyssey maybe had slightly more moons that were a bit more like, put on your thinking cap and how do you get that moon kind of thing. But that's not to say anything against this game so far. Like, I think it's really cool, like those levels. And
I think what you were saying, right, is like the combat ones, they feel like in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, the combat shrines of like, okay, I guess we're going to do one of these. And more so in Breath of the Wild of like, okay, we're fighting the same guy again with like the different weapons, and you know, there's just going to be harder versions of him. And that's a thing that I think wears on you eventually. I think the benefit of this is they're so quick, like they're really fast, and there's a time limit associated with them, and the faster you do it, actually, the more gold you get. I think one of my frustrations with those areas is sometimes you will drop like a soundtrack, which is one of the things you can collect, is like different songs that you can then play on your speaker.
They just randomly generated in the world.
I'm pretty sure, having played the whole thing, that it's all random drops. It's like a percentage chance that an enemy drops a music track. But in those battle arenas, if an enemy drops one but you don't collect it in time, the game just warps you to the end and is like, oh, we're just going to give you gold for finishing, and then you don't get that. So that's a little annoying, but it's a very minor inconvenience, I would say, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I do think those areas are definitely a highlight, and there's there's some really good ones in there, and there's definitely ones I went back to, and I was like, oh, I didn't get the third one in here. What was it? What was I supposed to do? And
there's some like Donkey Kong nostalgia ones that really hit me for a loop. I'm just like, oh, that's so
100%.
Cool. So cool.
I think the one thing that is really surprising about this game, for a game that was made internally at Nintendo, who usually only kind of recognize their own stuff, is how much love there is for the Rare era of Donkey Kong platforming. Not just in those special levels that are referencing them, but in a lot of different ways. And I think I'm very excited to talk to you about the end of this game, because I think the end of this game is a love letter in a way that I was really surprised by, and I think is pretty spectacular and does such a cool number of things that kind of references lots of different stuff. But I think it was shocking to me how much respect is paid to that team and what they did in building Donkey Kong's identity from the beginning, because it doesn't seem like a thing Nintendo would traditionally do. And I wonder if that is because it's a younger team who have come and worked at this company having grown up playing those Super Nintendo Donkey Kong games, right? As opposed to the old timers who are there supervising this kind of team of upstarts in the UK at that, at that era of time. So I wonder how that plays into things.
I think it's weird that Donkey Kong got this game. Like, when you think how long ago Donkey Kong 64 was, and was there much clamoring on the internet for like, we need another 3D Donkey Kong?
No, I think there was always rumors about it,
yeah.
But like, I think Donkey Kong has always been associated with quality from both those Rare games, but also the retro games that came out. And, I think Tropical Freeze is one of those games that's only gotten better with age, and people are now a lot more fond of it than when it released at the time. But I think also it's a wider IP play from Nintendo, because you have the movie and you have the theme park stuff. And I don't know, to be honest, like, it sounds like this game was greenlit before the movie, decisions were made. Or maybe not. Maybe this game was greenlit because the movie had also been greenlit at a similar time, and they wanted to kind of build out the Mario world and give DK a bit more of his own spotlight. But, the second thing that they've built at their theme park is a Donkey Kong-centered attraction, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole area based around Donkey Kong. So the push with the movie, the fact that there's leaks of like an actual full-on just Donkey Kong movie, and the theme park stuff. And also Donkey Kong, he's just got iconic, right? Like he's Nintendo's first like icon in a way, and the fact that he has such rich history with the company, it makes sense that they would want to eventually come back around and be like, right, you're in the spotlight again.
And to do an origin story with like him and Pauline, like I'm really interested. I know I've heard reviewers say the story's not that great, and I'm totally prepared for a not great story. I'm still fascinated, like Pauline. She just shot out the sky as a meteor from space, it seems like, and now we're playing with her. And where did she come from? Why are we going here? Like, what's happening? So I really want to know, like, and I think in the interviews they said it's very important that she's 13 years old. And I'm like, why?
Right.
Why? I want to know. So like, let's get to the end of this game. Let's find out, how does it link to New Donk City? Sure. I'm intrigued if those questions are answered. You don't have to answer them.
I will say that some questions are answered. I'm still a little annoyed because others are not, and I'm like, maybe it's in the post game. I don't know, because there's a thing that there is an additional thing after you've beaten it. Could you imagine, Bally? There's more bananas added to each level after you finish the game. It's even bigger. It's even bigger than you think it is. But like, from a narrative perspective, the game, it's a very simple story. The thing that I do really like though is, I think Pauline is given a great amount of character here, and the fact that she's also fully voice acted the whole time.
Yes.
And just, it goes back to the weird decision making from Nintendo of like, okay, so you voice acted this one character fully in English, and yet all the antagonists are just speaking gobbledygook. Like, it's such a frustration, I think. And I've heard quite a few people who are parents on podcasts talk about the fact that their kids can understand Pauline, but their reading level isn't high enough to understand what the other characters are saying, and so they're getting half of a conversation. And like, Nintendo, you could clearly fix this. Like, your games are ostensibly built for young children, right? Who oftentimes are not able to read but still want to enjoy the video game. And I think that's annoying that they did that.
I've learned very fast that like, Nintendo don't play test with children. They just don't. They choose not to.
No.
They don't want to do that. Maybe it's not their prerogative. I don't know. But playing with Bally Jr. and like, I sent you a video, Zed, where he's like, I think it's the second main level, and he's running and he's
the big
jumping
open
and
one.
He's smashing, and it's like, oh my god, Bally G is using analog sticks to run, and he is jumping, and he's actually understanding like, this is how you do it. And he's getting big enough where I think his hands are really catching up with the Pro Controller, which is great to see. And yeah, for him, I think I can see him playing this game properly by himself in like a few years, and we're gonna have our play sessions with it as it stands. I definitely don't think he would be interested in doing the whole co-op thing where like someone can like come in and shoot. You can like, it's a bit like Mario Galaxy, supposedly. Yeah. I don't think he'd be into that. He wants to control Donkey Kong. He wants to jump around. He's very content with like, we'll have a play session where he just runs around that second level and he's jumping and smashing, and he's getting real satisfaction out of how easy it is to jump and smash and punch and do these things. But he's very interested in watching me playing. So he's happy to watch me do my thing. And so we'll do 20 minutes with him, 20 minutes with me, and then 40 minutes. That's a pretty decent play session when you're 3 years old. So like, he's really interested and loving it, and that speaks to just how well Nintendo have designed it in terms of like, it's colorful, it's interesting, it's funny.
Yeah,
Pauline, you're right, he can hear what Pauline is saying, and that's fun for him as well. And he gets so excited when I'm about to get a banana, and he's just jumping around going, oh bananas, like he's just excited. Like there's something about this he will enjoy a lot more than the Mario Odyssey. Like it's just that game is a little more, maybe highbrow is the wrong word, but like it's a little,
I see what you mean though.
It's a little bit more like, yes, and I'll have my martini and my Mario Odyssey. Right. Thank you very much. Yes, and we'll explore the kingdoms. Yes, let's go.
It's refined in a way that DK is.
It's a bit more refined, and this game celebrates not being refined.
Totally, and it's about just being dumb and hitting things. You know,
And right now, I'm really loving being dumb and hitting things. But I could imagine that if I was like you, MBZ, and was trying to get to the end of this game and just find more mechanics to enjoy and see reveals, and it would be frustrating because these are much larger, longer levels than Kingdoms. Even though I don't even think with the Kingdoms you needed to reach like a minimum threshold of moons to progress. In this game, I don't think you need anything. You just need to progress the story, right? But it can still take a while.
Yeah, you just need to stop your own like sense of I need to clear everything out from this area before I move on. And so you are the barrier.
I mean, what if the reveal at the end of the game is like, you didn't have to get any bananas. You could have just played the game without collecting any of them,
to be honest, like I don't think you really do need to collect any bananas. If you just follow the main route, there is no blocker there. Like there's one blocker at the end that I told you about, which is eventually they'll be like, pay me a bunch of gold to get through this area. Right. But that is literally the only blocker in the game as far as I saw. So yeah, it's not the same in that way for structure. But yeah, just talking about the way these levels are built, it's like, you'll go to a whole area and be like, holy shit, this is quite big. And they'll be like, oh no, there's a whole other sub-layer to this.
Yeah.
But I think they did a bad job of calling each of the areas a sub-layer, because within a sub-layer there are sub-layers. So they probably should have just called them layers, and then those layers have sub-layers. But like, anyway, it's another weird nitpick.
I definitely enjoyed how clean the kingdom design is. Like there's like 14 kingdoms, they've all got distinct names and identities, and you just fly your ship between them, and if you want to go between them, you go back to your ship and you fly, and you can walk around your ship, and it's very clear. Like this has got this weird what they called the teleports. Like it's just
teleport.
It's very, this game is very weird. Like I have to step back and think to myself, like, right, okay, so there are these bad guys, and they own like this mining company, and they're trying to find the like history of their existence, and that's the answer to their questions is at the planet core. But they're going to go through all these other ape kingdoms. That is the same planet as Kong Island, but it's just like across the sea or something. And DK's working in a mine, but they're all going to go down into the center of the earth, center of this world that we don't know the
name of.
Where the
world is,
and we're just going to follow them and help out these Kong communities. And Pauline's going to join us because she fell out of the sky and likes to hang out with DK. Like, it's such a weird story. Like, I'm not saying I need like a grounded explanation, but it's another level of weird beyond Nintendo's normal weird is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and then the kind of the main types of creatures that live down here are these weird crystallized entities called fractones, who are again like a reference to Rare in the fact that they all have googly eyes, right? Like there's a weird way in which they are almost like, I remember a lot of people thinking that the original reveal was going to be a Banjo-Kazooie game for DK because they saw the googly eyes on those characters when it was first being shown. They're like, oh shit, is this something else? But that's another thing. Those guys are pretty consistent, and like there's such cool ways in which the environment stuff interacts with each other. So I don't know if you've tried this, but basically when you grab a piece of a fractone, you can basically, take these crystallized things from them, their body, and then they will just reform, right? So they're there infinitely. If you throw that back at them, it will attach to them and just stay there like a big ulcer on their head. And so you can just keep doing this and just sticking stuff to them. Also, if you grab anything from the environment, just like mud or whatever, and throw that at them, that will transform into crystal and become a part of their body as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's some really fun stuff there with the way that things interact that you just wouldn't expect. And I think it's that kind of attention to detail that is so great about this, where you're like, oh, I wonder if this will happen. And yes, oftentimes there's some kind of reaction that will be the case that is built into the game, and they've thought of everything in that way. They know that as soon as you see these guys and you see that you can punch them, they know you're going to punch them. Yeah. But then also, if you try and punch these other characters, like the ostriches, they give them a high five instead.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's contextual. It's really smart.
Really nice attention to detail, and just a lot of moments like that just really made me smile. And especially the dialogue with Pauline when you're having these weird sleepovers to
I love those.
You gain the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom hearts. That's the one Zelda reference, as well as the diving between layers. You're diving like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. That's also very Zelda-y. It's very strange. But yeah, there's just that detail. It's just really nice.
Another little Zelda thing. So one of the things you can do is if you have a soft material, so there's different designations, right? There's harder concrete materials, there's stone, there's this really solid metal that you can't punch through unless you become Kong Bananza, where he has big fists and he can punch through walls and things like that. So if you pick up sand or mud or whatever, it's a soft material, you can throw that at a wall, and then you can keep throwing it, and you can stick them together, and you can essentially create a pathway to get to somewhere. So this came into being because there's a little puzzle that I found. So I don't know if you've come across the fractone that's a puzzle piece before. Have you seen him?
Yes.
He's like a puzzle piece, and he's looking for his little babies to fit into.
He's like 3 little pals, yes.
3 little guys to fit into his slot so that he becomes a full square, basically. So the little chiplet guys, they were off on this other area over the water. And I was like, oh, I wonder how I get them over. And I was having a look, and I was trying to think, is there a good way to do this? So I started throwing some mud, and it was kind of working, but it was a little bit awkward. I couldn't quite get it to work. And I'd say one of the things that is a little awkward about this game sometimes is sometimes you will be in that throwing mode and you'll think you've thrown it at it, but it will accidentally hit something in the foreground and you won't. Especially because when you pick something off the ground, it creates a hole underneath you because you've lifted the rock. So if you're still in the hole and you throw it, you can find yourself sometimes hitting the lip of the edge and it exploding.
It's a very big hitbox on the thing you're throwing. Yeah. It makes contact with everything.
It's quite large. It was also... A side note here, we've been at PlayStack working on a game called Voidbreaker. I have been astonished at the similarities between Voidbreaker and Donkey Kong Bonanza in the way that Voidbreaker is very destruction focused, and Daniel, the developer of that game, had a tricky time with you can basically telekinetically lift objects into your hand and throw them at enemies to stagger them. And there was a thing that kept happening in playtests of you would have it and you would throw it, but it would accidentally hit a wall or something because you were standing in front of a wall, and so it would do that. And it was good to know that not just a little indie dev had this problem, but Nintendo also had the problem, and they also didn't really solve it. So I was like, okay, that's kind of nice to realize that we're all human at the end of the day, and these guys at Nintendo aren't in fact wizards. But anyway, back to the little puzzle guy story. So I was trying to throw mud. It wasn't quite working because I was kind of running into issues. Then I was like, wait a second. I could just punch a hole through the side of this and get them around the water and do that. So I started doing that and I punched a hole.
That's what I did as well.
But here's the problem. The hole I punched was a little too south, and so there was a tiny little driblet of water that was there, and these guys melt in the water. So I punched the whole way through, and then I was like, follow me, and they just went in the water and fucking drowned. I was like,
they're more panickety than Pikmin, and that's Pikmin from Pikmin 1 and 2, they're more panickety than they definitely struggle to follow. I agree on that. It's a little bit,
you have to be quite close to them, but that was fine. But then what I did was I was like, okay, what if I punch behind this wall and create an up ramp that goes around and then like creates an opening into the other tunnel. So I basically created a second tunnel to connect with my first tunnel that bypassed the water, that then allowed me to take the little guys to their dad, essentially. And that was very cool in the sense that, like, okay, I could, if I'd stuck with the mud, I could have got them there that way.
Yeah.
Or if I'd not been stupid and I punched a straight hole, I would have gotten them that way. But I had to, I messed up multiple times. And so in my messing up, it created this unique way of me getting those guys to the objective. And I didn't have to go and reset the world and undo my progress. The game was flexible enough to allow me a multitude of ways in order to tackle this problem. And I think that is where Donkey Kong Bonanza is at its best, where it's using those tools to let you figure out a solution on your own that is very satisfying.
It's just like Zelda, and that's something that Mario Odyssey doesn't quite have. There's not many unique ways you can beat aspects of levels in Mario Odyssey in the same way.
Right.
Super cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing that we can know about, right, is like the finding of collectibles can be quite interesting in that you have this clap ability, and as we talked about, it lets you collect gold that is around the environment, but it also acts as a sonar detector, essentially. And so I think this was very necessary because it's a game where essentially a lot of the secrets are hidden under the earth. You do need a way in order to do that. And I think in some senses you could argue that this circumvents design, because there are many instances that I found of me just digging through to get to a place, and I get to that area and then I realize in that area the way that I can exit it is very obvious, because there was a structure built outside that I could have come across naturally, punched, because it looks like a little divot in the wall, and I would have naturally found that fossil or that banana.
Is there an argument that the sonar was added later? Like
potentially,
were these levels designed in specific ways for you to, as you say, reach an entrance, and then they realized,
right,
okay, playtesters just aren't finding the bananas. Like we need to do something.
They're just too hard to find all of them,
or too laborious to dig all the way looking around to find them. I love the sonar. I upgraded it very early.
Yeah, I also did a good amount of it, and then people on Discord were talking about it. I was like, okay, maybe I'll boost it even more because it will help that process of getting everything. But I think a lesser team would have made that mistake of just randomly putting stuff on the ground. But every single one of these is like, no, there's Nintendo design there of like, there was a wall here, but you can see a tiny little crack in it, and it's like, that's the thing that tells you there's a thing behind here, right? And I would say most of those are. The ones that aren't, I'm pretty sure they're all tied to chests that have a map in them. Okay, and so the fossils that are kind of just like in the ground, I think a lot of those just have maps tied to them, which is part of the design also. So yeah, I think it is, despite the fact that you can dig literally anywhere and go anywhere, it is still very tightly designed from this is where we want the player's eye to go. This is where we want them to find something. This is where we can lead them to.
Yeah. Shall we jump to some questions?
Sure, yeah.
Declan asks, how do you guys find the bananas compared against other 3D platformer collectibles? We've covered this a bit already, but like, I like it a lot, and it's not just to do with the bananas and their placement, which I think is very good. It's about like we've already said, it's the satisfying feeling of smashing through things to get to a lot of them. And, but that's combined. There's still, like, even in one of the second levels, there's bananas hanging up high, and you're still like platforming and monkey barring across the top of the stage to get like this. Right. Like, there's a variety there where I'm not finding it that monotonous 12 hours in. Like, it still feels like a really good variety. And compared to other 3D platformers, so we've already talked about comparisons with Odyssey. I think games like Mario 64, Sunshine are a lot more similar to each other, where they'll base like the entire level around one collectible, as it were, whereas Odyssey opens it up, obviously. A game like Spyro is very open, like there's a scatter of gems everywhere, really. So I think it's stronger than all those games, arguably, in terms of how it handles those collectibles. I think we've already said kind of Odyssey maybe surpasses it in some ways, but that's more to do with the mechanics of the captures and the ways that you can get to moons in that game, which is arguably a little stronger than this, but I don't know, this is still very, very fun. I think it's impeccably designed in terms of where to stick those bananas. They're not all that obvious. I think the majority are a little bit trickier, and I like that about it.
I think it's very similar to Odyssey in that not all moons, not all bananas are created equal. In that, like, yeah, sure, some of them are just sitting there. You're just gonna get that, right? You're gonna get it. It's like,
but I still need a banana for getting to the top of a mountain, and this game will still do that for me. And I want that. I need that. That's good.
For sure. Like, you're gonna find bananas that are just on the beaten path. Like, you are just gonna get to a village and there's one sitting in the middle because they want you to have that, I got to this place and there's my reward for just getting to this place in the first instance. But there's equally a bunch of ones which are far more interesting. I think for me personally, I probably lean more in the direction of collectibles that enhance the level design, and what I mean by that is, like, I think 3D Land and 3D World are actually the best when it comes to collectibles, because those additional things that you find are what make the level design interesting. If you just run through a 3D Land or 3D World level, I don't think those levels are that interesting. I think they are fun and they are good, but they are very much built with a kind of younger audience in mind.
Aren't the bananas the green stars, though? Because we already said you could actually just run through this game if you wanted to.
But to some degree, you're right. Yes, definitely. But I think it's quite a different structure, right? Like the linear nature of levels versus the openness of a 3D game is slightly different. And I think in terms of personally, as someone who doesn't always go for collectibles, the games that get me with collectibles are the ones that make it feel like getting the collectible is actually the purpose of the game, right? Because there's certainly been
Astrobot
games like Astrobot, where, like, it feels like if you don't go for the collectibles, you're almost not finding the interesting parts of the game, like, that's a thing that you want to be doing, and it's a carrot on a stick. And I think, stuff like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, the level design is so tight and immaculate and fun that I don't need the collectible to enhance that, and so I don't feel the desire to have got every Kong letter or have to got every special coin or whatever it is in those games.
Getting all the Kong letters in Tropical Freeze is also insanely difficult. Like, it's
much more challenging.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and it feels like an extended challenge if you want it, versus a game like 3D Land, which is at its base level very easy, but it doesn't feel like the game. It feels like you have to go for the collectibles if you want to enjoy that game to its fullest, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that Donkey Kong and Mario Odyssey kind of fall somewhere in the middle, where, like, you don't have to go after all of them, but there's still an inherent fun to doing so, and there is a ease to doing so as well. I think that's the core part of it. Is like, no banana, I would say, challenged me in a big way. And I think generally, we have a question on this, so maybe we can get to that. But, like, difficulty in this game is interesting in that it's fucking easy as hell. Like, it's extremely easy. And I don't think that these games need to be difficult, because I don't think that's where the joy derives from. But there's a design to some of these early bosses that is so easy that I almost don't even know what the boss was going to do, because I beat them so fast, Now, what I will say is the back half of the game is a lot better. But generally speaking, I think that was something I've come across. Do you want to read Matria's question on it? Yeah.
Question from Matria says, have you guys got any thoughts on the difficulty progression? Outside of a few of the challenge courses, I've found the back half of the game to be a bit lacking in difficulty, similar to Mario Odyssey. It's the back half of Mario Odyssey that easy? I thought it was moderately challenging. I don't know, but I think it had, like, some challenging levels, and most of it was fairly easy.
There's definitely the post game of Mario Odyssey is a lot harder, I will say, because you have the really difficult final level that they always have in these games, and you also have, like, it's kind of difficulty in a way that I think is the worst part of Mario Odyssey, is, like, fighting all the Broodals in that, like, level where you have to go up the tower and stuff. I think that's actually the worst part of the game, because those fights are not fun and they are so repeated. And hey, this team, if there's one sin they have, repeated boss fights. Guess what? They don't solve in Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Oh, what a surprise.
There's a lot of repeated boss fights in this game. And they do make them a little more interesting as time goes on, but yeah, it's like you're not getting a lot of variety. The the one thing they do nail, I think, and I generally see this across all their games, is their finales and their final boss stuff is always excellent. And I would say this is the case for Bananza as well. They really do nail it. And it's not hard. Like, I think the final boss, I don't think I took a single hit, but it's really engaging. And I think the interesting thing about difficulty for me is less so how hard it is and more so how interesting it is from a mechanical standpoint. Whereas I find a lot of the early bosses in Bananza are get in their face and punch them quickly, and that's just inherently not very interesting as boss design, right? Versus later, where you can't just do that, you have to do something in the environment that opens a spot on the boss that then leaves them vulnerable for you to punch a bunch of times in a row. And the back half of this game, I would say, let's say the last 4 bosses, I think are really good because they engage with all the facets of the design of this game and get you to do things in creative ways, and also in ways that is up to the player in a lot of senses. Like there's a way in which you could approach this that is different from what I did, like if you used a different Bananza that you liked, you could do something totally different in that fight versus what I did. So I think that's cool, and I think that I wish there was more of that throughout the game, because I do think that overall bosses are weak in this game, especially compared to what Odyssey did with the creativity of every area had its unique. I know that boss in the water area, the fucking octopus, was easy, but it was so fun and creative, and it was enjoyable to fight it. And even the guy with the 2 hands, it's a Nintendo classic, face with 2 floating hands.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
It's a really creative, fun boss fight, even though
you capture the bullet bill and you're flying into that. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, you capture his fist and you become his fist, and then you punch himself in the face. Is that easy? Did I take 0 damage? Yes, but it's superior to what they've done in Bananza, because in Bananza it's at least the point you're at, all the bosses are punch them really fast.
I will say, but what's unique about Bananza out of all the EPD Tokyo games that we've talked about is it's the only one with a skill tree. I'm currently at an area where there's poison water, and if you're in the poison water, your hearts drain down very fast. If you run out of hearts, you die. If you've not been upgrading your hearts up to the point I'm at, you could be dying very, very frequently, because it's quite easy to accidentally dig too deep and touch some poison water. And if you've not been upgrading hearts up to that point, you're going to be dying a lot. So I think that we both, and at the point I'm at, and the point when you were at the point I'm at, MBZ, we were both had collected a lot of bananas, and we were quite leveled up. So we'd upgraded stuff like health and our punching power, and Bananza upgrades and all these other aspects of the skill tree. That will definitely make boss fights easier. That will definitely make not dying more common. You're going to die a lot less when you've upgraded that skill tree. Maybe
if we had mainlined it more and not gone after kind of cleaning out these areas, then maybe you're right. We could have faced a situation where...
So I think everyone's challenge with Bananza is kind of unique, because it depends on where you've spent bananas in the skill tree, if any, whereas everyone is playing Mario Odyssey at the same level. There's no upgrades in Mario Odyssey. You're experiencing exactly the same captures and everything.
Exactly. And I think that's a benefit in Odyssey, is that they're able to design tighter, more kind of scheduled fights in a way, because they know exactly what your power set and your abilities are.
And maybe that's why the end of Bananza's stronger, because they will have designed it in a way where they've agreed, right, everyone's more or less is going to have maxed out their skill tree by the end of the game. We'll tweak the boss difficulty to this exact level, and that will make it easy. Whereas for the people who've collected loads of bananas in the first 3 worlds, it makes the bosses very easy. And that's maybe a miscalculation by them on the difficulty.
Totally. And I think there's also customizability in this game, in the sense that there are outfits, right? And so you got outfits for DK and you got outfits for Pauline, and each...
What was your stock color?
I don't do stock color, Bally. I'm not vanilla. Oh, of course I do. What am I going to do? Go to a new shop and buy a new thing and then not wear it? Of course that's what I'm going to do. And
that's what I do in every single game. I'll buy that costume. I'll buy this costume. I'm not going to wear them.
Bally is, I tell you what, I would not be surprised if at the end of this game, Bally is in fucking butt naked DK, not wearing anything, in his brown outfit. That's what he's going to do.
It was funny. I asked Bally Jr., we went to a shop, we bought some things, and I let him dress up Pauline and DK. And he had them as vanilla as could be. And I was like, you are my son.
That's my son.
You're my son. Yeah, DK
is
butt
so
naked. He had Pauline in her original garb, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Where the red? No, Daddy needs the red tie." It's like, "Yep, you're right, Bally Junior.
Yeah.
Red tie, DK.
The original.
Got it. There we go. The
Oh,
original,
man.
solid."
Yeah, you're training him well to be another vanilla boy. No, I mean, I change constantly. And I think part of it was also, well, I mean, for me, I just like aesthetically being like blue DK, then green DK, then marshmallow colored, then, you know, all these different funny colors, which is good fun.
I have been mixing it up than my traditional vanilla, I'll admit. Especially
That's
on
good.
the DK color front. I don't like adjusting the clothes as much because
Right.
they have, you know, real benefits to, like, you'll find more treasure chests if you're wearing
The
this
ability
tie.
stuff.
Yeah, abilities, exactly. So I'm
Yeah.
leaning on certain ability related items.
I definitely kept that treasure tie the whole game after realizing, like, oh, I could just get more fossil maps more efficiently doing it this way. But I think, you know, I was changing my breeches, my britches, they call them, a lot. Britches. And obviously changing Pauline's outfit when it was. She gets far fewer outfits than DK does, generally speaking, which is a bit of a shame. I do also wish that the outfits, or at least the colors or the things that... I wish DK had a bit more wild stuff going on with his stuff. Because, like, Pauline has, like, full-on outfits. DK is just color palettes. And, like, there are so many colors that exist, and then they kind of start blending them and making them like gradient versions and stuff like this. And like, I don't know, it would have been nice to be like
this shade of purple versus that shade of purple. I'm like, two slightly different purples going on right now. That feels like a Nintendo top-down decision. Like, you cannot make polka dot DK. I'm sorry.
Right. No, but like for me, color. It's like, why not have a Funky Kong costume? You know, like costumes for DK would make so much sense of like making it a bit more fun.
Like Mario Odyssey.
Exactly. Like, and you know, that was the thing. I was like, oh, we're going to get to the end of the game and it's going to be the DK64 outfit, but I don't know if that's the case or not. Maybe it's out there somewhere. Maybe it's hidden. I have not found it. But as far as I know, the only DK stuff you get is color changes. And that, I think that's disappointing because I think one of the joys of Mario Odyssey was like getting to the end and finding those secret costumes and being like, holy shit, they did this crazy stuff, which was a lot of fun. But really cool. I've been changing up the outfits a good amount. I think they all look good, and sometimes you want to choose one that actually works for the environment because like they're, you know, if I'm in the forest level, I actually don't want to be green DK because then I blend in, I can't see myself as well, you know, like you almost want to make yourself like color balanced to whatever environment you're in.
I quite like white DK, nice. Stands out on basically everything. I've not got to the snow level yet, so that works for me well. It's nice. Yeah,
definitely. And yeah, I think there's some nice nods in here as well to other games. Have you come across like the gold trees yet, where you feed them gold? Have you found those?
I haven't.
Okay, so these gold trees where you stand on a platform and you hold down a button and he just starts throwing gold, and it basically starts building this gold tree. And in order to get the full tree, you have to spend a lot of gold. But when you have the full tree, you get three bananas for it, basically. And I got to this and I was like, wait a second. This is just feeding the hungry Lumas from Galaxy. Right. It's like exactly that idea, but they've taken that idea and they've implemented it in like a uniquely Donkey Kong way where you are just feeding a tree to make it grow essentially and give you more bananas. And I think that's very fun that they have little nods and little references like that in there. I feel like it's well calibrated on a kind of moment-to-moment basis of finding things. Like, you're always going to have something to find, you're always going to have something to lead you along, and it's a game where I think you can very much get obsessed with it, you know, and I think that is a danger to some degree of like part of the exhaustion I feel, part of the feeling of, oh man, this game's been going on for a long time, is that that pacing of it, because it's so quick. There's so much stuff happening all at once. We've talked about this a lot, about like the way different games are built and how that makes you feel of how much you've played of it, right? Like where I could spend 9 hours in a row playing Xenoblade and I don't even feel it. I'm like, oh god, 9 hours went by, what the fuck? Versus DK, where I'll play for an hour and I'd be like, have I played for like 3 hours in a row? I'll be like, oh shit, it's only been an hour, because there's just such a density of stuff you're doing at every moment that it really it really kind of is hard to kind of calibrate around.
It reminds me a bit of where we played Pikmin 4 and we expected Pikmin 4 to be 15-hour game, maybe 18, 20 at the absolute max. And I spent like 40 hours with Pikmin 4. And it was like, Did I come away from that being like, I'm glad it was 40 hours? Well, yeah, kind of, because I liked the pacing of what they were going for with that game versus other Pikmin games. And then I did play some like 3, 4, 5 hour long post game stuff on top of that. So I liked it. And, you know, for me, the jury's out on DK. Like, I'm still deciding, like, you know, is this going to be strong at 40 hours? And I'll admit, with Mario Odyssey, the main game, I maybe got, I don't know, 60-70% of moons going through the main game, maybe slightly less, and then we were both like, let's go for the 999 moon challenge, and aspects of that were very tiring, but
some of it was
to 100% Mario Odyssey is about 50 hours. How Long to Beat is suggesting to 100% this game it's a bit lower at like 40 hours. So, you know, even though this has got the much longer main game by a minimum of like 6 to 8 hours, it still seems like it might be faster to 100%, which is interesting. So, like...
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that that's the case. And I think that might be true just based on the fact that I'm just over 25 hours, and I think I'm missing about, I'd say, 200 bananas, maybe 150. So, yeah, and I think similar number of fossils as well. So... maybe I will come back and be like, yeah, I was done by 45 hours, and in fact, it was shorter than Odyssey overall, which would be kind of wild. But I do think that the main line of Odyssey, I had far less moons than what I have bananas at the end of Bananza, basically. The percentage was
implying
definitely
there might
lower.
be the same number of moons and bananas in both games.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know. Actually, I think there were 888 moons in Odyssey, and then you had to pay for the rest of them.
Yeah.
Bunch of fake ones and get money, which is kind of why I'm grinding for cash now as well. Like, you know, maybe I'll have to spend all that to get the rest of them. But
are you surprised they didn't go for a 12-hour mainline easy breezy campaign for this game?
Yeah.
And then they still have the 40-50 hour thing, and they decide, actually, we'll lean longer on the mainline path.
Yeah, to some degree. I think I do feel like it was a design mistake to not gate the number of bananas, because I think what that does is it either creates people who just ignore it and run through it, and therefore can probably, I don't know, maybe you can beat this game in under 10 hours if you just don't do any of the work, like, because there's nothing binding you.
True, but I mean, I think defeating it with like 2 hearts and minimum strength is not going to be a very enjoyable experience for most people, I'm sure, but
probably,
sure, it's doable.
Yeah, it's definitely doable, I think. But then likewise, if you don't give a constraint, then people will just stay as long as they want in a space. Like, I think there was a benefit to the Odyssey cap in that the game told you when it was time to move on, when you could feel comfortable being like, I'm going to leave this for now and I'll come back to it later. And I think just on a psychological level, that would have helped with this game to make it feel a bit more manageable, maybe. But again, this is you know, this is on the player. It's on me for feeling this way, because I'm just like compelled to do it.
I'm going to beat it in the weekend.
Right? Yeah, totally. So there's that aspect to it. But you know, I think his game is still incredibly impressive. Like, in so many ways,
so
just. The way that the destruction works, just the functionality of it, the fucking crazy thing to me is, like, you can literally destroy this whole map and it will remain that way. Obviously, if every time you leave a space and come back and go to a different layer, actually, within layers, if you're within one section of the world, you can go between the layers and it will retain it. Like, even if you teleport from a top layer to a bottom layer, it will retain the punch that you had done in the environment. Like, every single spot of it, every little hole or tunnel that you had made is going to stay there until you move to a totally secondary area, basically, as soon as you go to a brand new area, which is kind of remarkable from a technical level, because that's the sort of shit we expect of, like, oh, it's like, oh, God of War, you can see my footprints in the snow, but, like, okay, those will disappear in like 5 seconds because the world's not gonna leave them there forever, and so I'm never gonna.
There are secret, like, blood moons going on in this game that you're kind of like in between warps and things, like you said.
Right, totally. But like the fact that I could dig this very specific, like, I don't know, I could dig a shape of a penis, right? And that will be represented on the map until I leave that area. It's crazy that they have that level of flexibility with it, and you're allowed to just just leave it like that, there was a guy on Reddit I saw who destroyed the entirety of the lagoon area, and so the whole thing is completely destroyed, and the only thing you see is the green pipe that you can't, right? So there's certain materials that are like, you can't actually do anything to these are structural things, but like the bottom of the world is just this kind of like black substance. It's like a almost carbon, I don't know, obsidian material, and you can kind of hit that as an edge of the world essentially when you're digging down. So it doesn't go infinitely, right? Like it's not that crazy, but what it means is there is a base layer that you can then literally dig every other piece out of, just if you want. Like, there's a level of which Power Wash Simulator sickos would just play this game just to clear out fucking the entire environment, which I could see as a legitimate way of playing Donkey Kong Bonanza and enjoying it, just because the sheer act of punching is so much fun. Question for you: did you change your button input for this game?
No,
because the way it's built is I think it's quite smart in the way they thought about it. Like, the up button is punch up, the down button is punch down, and the left button is punch to the side. It broke my brain immediately. I was like, I need to have jump on B and I need to punch on Y, and that's it has to be that, otherwise I will lose my mind. So I immediately went into the controls and changed it. And there's a little bit of like learning with it, with the with A being down and X being up, but I got used to it pretty quickly, and once that was ingrained, I was fine. I also did a thing which is, for the first time, I used the back buttons on the Switch 2 Pro controller, GL and GR, and I mapped up and down to GL and GR. Also, the benefit of putting it on A is that when pressing GR, I could hold the controller in one hand. So like when I am going to sleep and Pauline's chatting to me, with my right hand, I can be on my PC mousing through Blue Sky or whatever, and I can just click with my back button to A through the dialogue. So that was a nice little hack that I managed to do as well.
What do you do with those back buttons when you're playing handheld?
They don't exist, so...
Isn't that bizarre? Nintendo did that, though? I don't know, because you get used to putting them in a position, and then the whole point of the system is swapping between docked and handheld, and then you lose the ability when you're in handheld. It just seems... Yeah,
you just don't have it anymore. It's completely gone. So... Yeah, that was a little weird, but I did majority play this on with my Pro controller on the screen, so it wasn't really an issue for the most part. But
I have a very, very important question.
Okay, here we go.
I think a lot of people at home will appreciate this reference. Could you read the words Planet Core without reading them in a boss nass voice in your head?
You know the funniest thing about that shit is that I took a screenshot the first time he said Planet Core, and I was like,
Core.
I was gonna be, because I was playing the game and I knew that it was gonna be sent to my phone, because the way the Switch app works now is it automatically sends screenshots to your phone, and my intention was, I'm gonna post this to Blue Sky after this play session, and then I played for ages and completely forgot to do it. So I will tell you that, Bally, yes, of course I'm on your wavelength, and my intention was to do a post being like, fucking boss nass over here, and I didn't, because I forgot to do it. But
it's the final reveal of the Planet Core that this is in fact Naboo.
Who knows, but I can't say. Cool. I can't let you know. That would be cool. Spoilers, of course. It'd be very big spoilers. But yes, as soon as I saw that, I did the exact same thing. Maybe that's just because we're sick in the brain with episode 1. But yeah, it's the Planet Core indeed. Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Don't go on Bananza. It's a big video game. There's lots about it.
Do you think I can beat it for next time, or is this? It would be a bit of a slog for next time.
No, what you've told me as well is you've got more people coming, so I think you're going to have a harder time getting in. But I think you can get pretty close. I think you can get pretty far. Okay. What I will say is, like, it is longer than you think. So if you think you're getting to the end, you are not actually at the end. There'll be more than you think there is for the end of this game.
Okay.
But I will say the last 40 minutes of this game, fucking spectacular. Okay. Absolutely excellent.
Last 40 minutes versus Odyssey, go. No spoilers.
Oh, man. I would say equal to, in some ways good. Better.
Oh? Yeah. That's good. That is good.
There is one sequence in particular where a musical thing happens and also a reference happens, and I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was so...
Did you say an unusual thing happens?
No, not unusual. Okay. I'm not going to say anything else. The musical. There's a musical.
Sorry, I was just coughing.
A musical reference, and then a reference to something else. And then after that, it's a reference to something else. So like that, there's a sequence from that point onwards that is like, I was very, I was just smiling the whole time.
Okay.
I was like, wow, they really respect this shit, and I think it was really well done. So I think you'll be very pleased.
That's good.
As a Donkey Kong fan, I think you'll be very pleased with
awesome.
this game. So, yeah.
I was a bit disappointed in that third world where you use a minecart to get between mini islands, but there's a tiny bit, but there's not like proper minecart platforming. So
yeah,
I'm hoping.
And I think for me, that comes back to one of my disappointments with the game is that I don't think the mechanics go far enough. Like, okay, that third area is built around minecarts, but the minecart mechanics are very basic. They're very simple, and there's not a lot going on with it. And that's kind of the core mechanic for the level. And you have 3 sub-layers of that, and it's never really evolved that meaningfully. And there is a bit of like, I think there's a boss fight where you're throwing things from the minecart or something. Which is fun. That's great. But I just don't think it was meaningfully expanded on or twisted or evolved in a way that kept momentum.
So you're talking in a way like there's not this awesome minecart level later in the game that's going to blow my mind, and that's
well, the minecart definitely comes back. There is more minecart stuff, so you will see more of it. I can't, maybe you'll be super over the moon about, because there's definitely more of it, and I think there's some cool stuff they do. But I think that my main point really is that like the core mechanics per world feel like they're a bit too stretched thin because the worlds are quite large, right? Because you have multiple sub layers per world. You only have this one mechanic that's the new thing. And to be fair, some of them have bonanzas as well. And so some of the worlds will be, we're introducing a new bonanza, so there's a whole new set of powers that you're doing alongside this whatever thing, which is kind of why I think they did that. But then you do get to some levels where it's like, oh, okay, there's not really anything meaningful mechanically going on here. And fundamentally, I think that's the advantage that Odyssey will always have, is that in its smaller, even though it had smaller levels, there was more variety in terms of things your character could do because of the hat.
The capture mechanic is just very strong at providing variety. Yeah,
it's just so flexible that it just changes the type of game you're playing so constantly that it's always keeping things fresh.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of crazy they found a mechanic that is so satisfying that it almost gets around that. But at the end of the day, it still is so much punching that there's not a lot else to support it, and I wish there was a bit more to support it basically. But
did this game exceed your expectations?
I don't know, because I'm not really sure what my expectations were going into it. Like I didn't know what it was going to be, if I'm honest. Like you
didn't have expectations once it got like the 91 Open Critic or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's slightly below that, but not in a bad way. It's not like I'm disappointed, because I think the game's fantastic, and I want to keep playing it, right? I want to 100% it, so that says a lot. But I think like VGC expressed this quite well on their show, which is the start of the game. I was really high on it. I was like, wow, this is so creative and fun, and like just so amazing you're able to just interact with the environment in this way.
Probably got a stronger opening than Odyssey.
Yeah, it's all very immediate, I would say, like very immediately tangible, and like, oh my god, this is really cool. And then I would say there's 15 to 20 hours in the middle where it's probably an 8 out of 10. It's really good the whole way through, but my mind wasn't being blown as frequently as I wanted it to. And then the end of the game is like, holy shit, this is awesome. So it's like, it is a game of like strong beginning and ending with, I would say, a relatively flabby middle, but that's not a negative, I think.
Flabby on its own high terms, flabby.
Yes,
not flabby
exactly.
in terms of wider video game industry flabby.
Oh, like this is the thing. Compare Donkey Kong Bonanza to any other video game that came out this year. Yeah, of course, it's fucking better than most video games.
Is it getting the TGA GOTY nom? It's got it locked.
Oh, I think so. I think it will
win the category.
Maybe, yeah. We'll see. I think there's definitely people who are very high on it, and I think there's just generally a Nintendo kind of not bias, but like I think when they come out with these big tentpole releases like this one is, there's a level of number of people who play it, right? Which is the thing that you need for those awards. Is just like its popularity more so than anything. And so the thing about DK is it's so accessible that everyone will play it, I think. So that will definitely help it. Yeah, I think it's remarkable as an achievement of just like, I think it's just so cool that Nintendo continue to innovate and do that in ways that, like, you know, people always talk about things of like, oh, what if a game did this? And Nintendo are like, okay, yeah, what if we actually did do that? And that's where they put all their time.
It's very controversial and an impressive take by them to be like, no, we're not doing Mario first. We're going to do DK.
Yeah.
Like, he deserves the 3D platformer from the Odyssey team. We're going to do that first. And you're going to get your Mario. It's going to be great. But for now, we want to do this cool new thing with DK. And it's going to have elements of all these other games, but we're going to do something new and fresh. And I think that's another example of Nintendo being quite brave, quite bold, and saying, you don't know what you want yet because you've not had it yet. And here we go.
Right.
Have it. Boom.
And it's them looking at the character holistically and saying, okay, what makes Donkey Kong special? What is the thing about him that no other character that we have can do? And what's a unique, interesting set of mechanics? What's a technology that we can push, right? And I think the developers talked about in those interviews, the genesis of this game was some cool voxel stuff that they tried in Odyssey, and they were like, okay, but what if we built a whole game around that kind of like cool idea? That very much it's player driven expressivity, right? And I think modern Nintendo feels like it's being built around that as a core idea. If you look at what the Zelda games have done, even Echoes of Wisdom, right? So much of Nintendo's modern game design is about allowing the player to do what they want with mechanics that have so much freedom to them, right? It's about taking away the restrictions of a, you know, as much as we love tightly designed 2D or 3D Zelda, there is a linear path to those games, and there is a one solution to those games. And I think what Nintendo has done, and what I talked about with my story about the little guys following me through the tunnel, is they are giving you the tools in order to enact whatever approach you think is fun and what you want to do with them. And I think this is further proof that that is the MO of modern Nintendo game design. And I think it's very interesting because it feels like we're just going to keep getting this from their core teams of, let's push the boundaries in interesting ways and try and do stuff that other games have just never really tried before. And this is certainly one of those. So.
Here's a cool tidbit. So you know the opening area, like the tutorial area. Do you know what the name of that area is called?
It's a mining thing. I can't remember what it's called.
What happens in mining areas?
You dig with
when you're not digging, what are you doing to remove rock from areas?
Oh, you're like blowing it up, I guess.
What's another word for blowing something up?
I don't know.
Okay, the name of the name of that area is Boomtown.
Wait, what?
Yes, it is called Boomtown.
Really?
Yes.
No fucking way, dude.
I've just looked it up, and it's called Boomtown.
That's amazing.
So, for those who don't know, wow. I don't even know where this came from, but it came.
Neither do I.
It kind of came from Smash Brothers. MZ and I have grown up playing Smash Brothers together. We're fairly evenly balanced most of the time. It has swayed a bit at points in history, but then anytime they got to a point, I think it was around the Wii U era, Smash 4, where when I would pull off like a Smash move and shoot MZ off the stage, I'd say like Boomtown, and then you could do like the little celebrations on the Wii U game where you could do a little celebration that would have a little message for when you did something. So I'd often like shoot MZ off the stage, and I had like up on the D-pad said Boomtown. And I did this.
I don't know where did Boomtown come from for you in your vocabulary? Can you track where that originates?
I have no idea. It's just like a celebratory. I don't think it's a Scottish thing. It's like I don't know. Is it a British? I don't even know. But then there was a phase where I was doing quite well with Donkey Kong, and I went on a bit of a winning streak. And every time I'd shoot you off the stage, I'd do my celebration, and he'd say Boomtown. So it was like it became a bit more associated with Donkey Kong, I'd argue, because I would often get my kills in different ways, whereas the character I'd get the most traditional smash off the stage kills was Donkey Kong. So yeah, Donkey Kong and Boomtown is like a thing connected in my head.
That's so funny.
So
oh
that's
my
a
god.
nice little reference in there that Nintendo was thinking of TNL. You see,
They were. They knew it all the whole time. The thing I think about with Boomtown is that Mario Maker level you made and you spelled out Boomtown in coins. that was very funny. So whenever I think of Boomtown, I think about that fucking Mario Maker level you made. So yeah, that's very good.
Oh, that I remember you playing that like on a stream or a video, and then you just like cracked up laughing when you found
lost
that
it.
at the end. Yeah, I was very proud of that.
It's very funny.
Oh.
Well, on that bombshell, on that Boomtown. Yeah, I think we'll close it there. We'll definitely have some more evolving thoughts as this goes on, because it's a big game, and I still have not done a lot of the post game stuff. There's one thing I did that felt like, okay, here's where the challenge of the game is going to be at the back half, which is cool. So looking forward to digging into a bit more of that, and then of course we'll get your thoughts, Bally, as you go through and get to the end. And yeah, we'll probably do like a mini spoiler segment. There's not a huge amount to spoil in this game, if I'm honest, but like some of the back half stuff would be nice to chat about, and some of the areas and the ending.
We define mechanics as spoilers. Like there was a lot of ridicule online about like DK spoilers. How can you say that DK has spoilers? But mechanics. If you grow up with the Nintendo games, mechanics are spoilers.
Yeah,
it's
like
not just about plot.
it's not even mechanics. I would say it's just like like what's one of the areas that you go to and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, like those types of things are basically surprises that could be spoiled. You know, I think is fun because it's always fun to get to a new world and be like, oh, what's the theme of this world? I don't know what the mechanic around this world is and stuff like that. So I think we can dig into that when we get to it, and I'm sure more people will have finished the game by that point as well. So yeah, looking forward to diving into it. Cool. Well, I think that's going to do us. So, Bally, we've got some folks we'd like to thank for supporting the show. If you go to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, you can, of course, support the show in various different ways and get bonus podcasts and all that fun stuff. And Bally would like to thank some of our supporters.
Yes, we have new patrons. They are Isaac G, but also Sullivan C has moved from their previous tier to the $10 tier. So thank you very much for your support, Sullivan C, and thank you for your support, Isaac G. And I've got to thank all of our $10 tier plus patrons who are now Sullivan C, Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer, UK Alan, Orange Thunder, Nintendo Man, and Ali T. Thank you all for your support, and thank you also to all of our other patrons. We really appreciate all the support you give the show. So thank you.
Interested to hear Ali T's take on Donkey Kong. I did see that he's bought it.
Okay.
I checked. Of course, Bally, as you know, I obsessively check both you and Ali T and what you've been playing. All other people on my friends list as well, because I'm very curious about what people are playing all the time. And I saw Ali T had started playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. So
started playing.
Yes, yeah. So he probably got it recently, and I'm sure he'll be interested to.
What was his take on Odyssey, do you know?
It's a great question. Did he play Super Mario Odyssey that much? I don't remember.
He's an enigma, that man, honestly.
It's fine. As always, we'll get a text in like a week's time from him addressing all our questions.
He goes, all right, guys, I listened to the episode, and in fact, this is my hot take on Mario Odyssey, and this is what I think of Bonanza. We will report back in episode 302. Yeah. There's also meant to be like a Nintendo Direct that's probably going to be out by the time people listen to this. So all of our
100%
hypothesizing about future Nintendo games and maybe a Mario game and maybe this, like, there's every chance the next Nintendo tentpole game is announced and people know about it listening to this. But here we are in the past, not knowing what that game is going to be. So there you go.
This year is going to be pretty wild, I think. Like, we know. Okay, here's the thing. Hollow Knight Silksong is coming out this year. They've confirmed it's happening, all right? It is going to happen. We will play that this year, and we'll also play Metro Prime 4 this year. Two games that have been in development for, I would say, the same number of years.
A decade
at
each.
this point. Yeah, well, so Metro Prime 4 was announced in 2017 originally, and Silksong was also announced around 2017 because the original came out in
2016?
2016, I think, and then 2017 was the year that... No, sorry, Hollow Knight came out in 2017, my bad. Hollow Knight came out in 2017, then 2018 was the year when everyone played it on Switch, and it got the hype.
You, yes.
But Silksong was announced because it was originally DLC as part of the Kickstarter for Hollow Knight. So technically, Silksong's been announced since like before Hollow Knight came out. But that's a whole other thing. But That said, 2 games that we have been waiting to play for literal years, and they're both coming.
You're not
this
even
year.
counting like Hades 2. Like, that's another big game that's probably going to come out this year.
Yeah, I'm not, but also, some of us have played Hades 2 out here, Some of us already have opinions on Hades 2. No, Hades 2 full release I'm very excited for. I might actually just rebuy it on Switch 2 and start from the beginning, because it'd be nice to just jump in with everybody, but then also play it on Steam at the same. Maybe I'll play the beginning and the late game stuff at the same time. I don't know. It's a game that definitely deserves
obsessive.
that.
Like, I'm a bit bored at the start of the game. I guess I'll go back to the end of the game and play a bit of this, and then
honestly, I don't know. I feel like I just want to refresh myself though, because it's been a long time since I played. Because like narratively, if I continue playing through where I am at right now, I don't really remember where everything's at narratively. So I'm just kind of like, maybe it's a good idea to restart potentially, but we'll see. That'll be that when it happens. But yeah, still big year to come for some releases, and I'm looking forward to them as everything else. You can find us many places on the internet, such as on social media, Blue Sky mainly. You can find the podcast at TNL Podcast. You can find me at NBZ. Where can they find you, Bally?
I'm on Blue Sky, at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91.
Lovely stuff. And you can obviously join our Discord, where these questions came from, and also email us obviously at our email address that Bally will tell you right now.
Please send your emails to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We also have a channel on our Discord server. It is called Emails. You can post your comments, your questions over there, and join the community. It's fun to chat, hang out, talk about games.
Absolutely. You can, of course, find us in various places on the internet. You can go to YouTube. We're on there, so if you want to have it in a different tab, that'd be great. But you can also go to Spotify, to Stitcher, to all these places, and any podcasting app that you have. Just search This Nintendo Life will be right there, and subscribe, and then you won't have to think about downloading. It'll just automatically happen every couple of weeks' time, straight into your podcasting box. It's wonderful. It's great. It's amazing. And I think that is pretty much gonna do us. I said, I messaged on the Discord and I was like, well, there's rumors about Nintendo Direct, so inevitably it's gonna be announced for the Tuesday after this show comes out. So if that's the case, then we'll get to that Nintendo Direct next time. But I'm looking forward to. I feel like we're due those announcements, and we need a release date for these games. So I think it's gonna happen. Maybe both the games, Hollow Knight and Metroid, both get release dates at that Nintendo Direct. Wouldn't that be nice?
Wow.
That'd be.
What if Hollow Knight got a shadow drop?
I don't think it's happened. I think they're gonna lead up to it. I think it's too big to do that. So, but we'll see. We shall see. But I think that's going to do us for this episode. Thanks everybody so much for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with some more podcasting, some more video games, and some more talking about Nintendo. Until then, bye bye.